We can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you doing today, Mr. Mike Ferry?
Good, thank you, Miss Brandy, that's for sure. Can you change that screen so you can have a picture? I can see you in the top and me in the bottom. Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ah, that's much better. It's much better looking at you than looking at me. That's for
Oh,
sure.
thank you, Mr. Ferry. I appreciate that.
Oh, that's great. So how many do you expect on the webinar this morning?
So usually with webinars, we expect between 20 and 30 agents that actually show up.
Excellent. That's great. Good for you.
Yes.
And how many agents do you have?
In total in the brokerage, we just got
Yeah.
to 186.
Wow, good for you guys. That's great. Congratulations. So we sent you some questions, I believe, correct?
Yes,
And
sir.
whenever you want to start, I'm ready for some answers. That's for sure.
All right, here we go, Mr. Ferry.
And
Should
please,
we,
well, first, please call me Mike.
I would be honored to call you Mike.
Thank
All
you.
right, Mike, should we expect a substantial decline in the amount of business being done if this continues for a long period of time?
You know, I think what's interesting is most of us, when the president announced in the middle of March a 30-day home isolation, most of us thought this would be finished in 30 days. And here we are now in the middle of June, and we're not really that much closer to the finish. So I would say the answer is no, we should not expect a big decline. January, February were great. March, of course, was okay. April collapsed the real estate business. The withdrawn listings, the canceled transactions under contract. May came back very strong. June is getting stronger. See, the advantage we have is home ownership is still the most important thing that anybody could ever attain. And you and I, as real estate people, are allowed to provide that service to the public. As long as our agents are working, I don't see any decline in business. However, what we're seeing, probably more than anything else, is that the 10% that do a lot of business are doing more business. And the 90% that don't do much are doing less. So it's really a mindset issue more than anything else. Because if their mindset, I mean, let's face it, there are buyers in the market, there are sellers in the market. Our job is to get in the way. And as long as we get in the way, we're not going to see a decline. I feel bad for two groups of people. I feel bad for the agents that started after 2012, because this is their first downturn. They've never experienced one before. Second, I feel bad for the single men and women in real estate with the home isolation, because you can only talk to the walls and your dog so much before you go crazy. So, you know, that the mindset issue is really the big issue that everybody has to deal with. This is not going to end for a while. This particular disease is unusual. I mean, if you fall down and break your finger, you know you broke your finger. If you get hit by a bus, you know you've been hit by a bus. But this disease, we can't see it, feel it, smell it, taste it, touch it. We don't even know half the time if we have it. So it creates a lot of fear. And I think the mindset and the fear are what we have to deal with every day. So hopefully I don't anticipate you or any of your agents having a decline. Okay.
Absolutely, and I love that answer. And just to piggyback off what you were saying, I was just telling the agents the same thing. It's about mindset. It's about
Yeah.
still going out there and doing what you need to do, especially doing what the other agents are stopping doing. There's
Oh
still
yeah.
business out there. We just got to go after it. You got to hunt it.
Well, most agents are still hiding under the bed, in the closet, not coming out, you know, and it's sad to watch, because, you know, these are agents that have skills. There's demand for their service. They're just afraid. And, you know, and as long as they're afraid, they're paralyzed. And I feel bad for them, but it's part of, the good news is you and I aren't paralyzed, so we can move forward.
Absolutely, yes. Positive momentum all day, every day.
That's right.
All right, here we go for the next question. Mike, what type of schedule should agents be following as we continue to work out of our homes?
So let's be honest, even though offices are opening, social distancing, 6 feet of spacing, you know, not shaking hands, not hugging, these are issues that are hard to deal with, because we have a lifestyle, we have a thinking style we've always maintained. So I'm telling agents that are working from home, if they have a family, okay, then, for example, family, husband, wife, children, kids, boyfriend, girlfriend? And for you, are you by yourself or with the family?
I have a family.
Okay, so here's what I'm recommending. 8:30, quarter to 9 each morning, have a little family sales meeting. Bring the family together and say, okay, from 9 to 10, I need 1 hour of uninterrupted time to do my job so I can provide for the family the way I always have. And then at 10 o'clock, if you have children and a spouse, you take care of your family for 30, 40 minutes, which is very important because
Hello, Mike? It seems like it froze. Is everybody still on here? Are you able to hear me and see me? Are you able to hear Mike still? Please pop in the chat. I see that he is frozen. Are you able to see me?
if this message is getting through. Ah, there it is.
All right, here we go, Mike. Yes, we we got reconnected. I'm not sure what happened, but got lost in cyberspace. But what
Yes.
matters is that we're found again. Can you please
Okay.
continue on about
Yeah.
10 o'clock?
Okay, so 10 o'clock, then we take a little break for 30, 40 minutes, take care of the family. Then at 11 to 12, put in one more strong hour of work. Okay, then 12 to 1:30, be with your family again, take care of your children, summer school work, etc. 1:30 to 2:30, do your third 1 hour segment. So did you say, Brandy, you guys have about 180 agents in the company?
Yes, 186.
Can you imagine if all 186 actually worked 3 hours a day?
Oh my God, I would be amazed. I would be excited. I would be like, to the moon.
That's right. I mean, the production of the company would double or triple. So all we're asking in this home isolation is 3 devoted hours per day to the job they do. And if they do that, they're going to be fine. And of course, if they're coming into the office to follow the social, I had a situation 2 weeks ago. I'm coaching a very large broker in the Midwest. They have 600 agents in 10 offices. And on a Friday at noon, she came into the office to get some paperwork. One of the assistants came in at 1 o'clock. And the broker said, "What have you been doing this morning?" And the gal said, "I just woke up from a nap." And the broker said, "You just woke up from a nap. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon." "Yeah, I usually take a nap every day from about 10 to 1. Well, this person's supposed to be working, okay? But then I thought to myself, and I said this to the broker, that's unfortunately what a lot of people do today. They're not putting in the time. So just 3 hours a day and everything is going to be fine for a real estate agent. But it's discipline. That's the challenge. It's the discipline. I mean, I can't imagine you not putting in 3, 6, 8 hours a day. I mean, you have to run a business. Since March 7th or 8th, when we closed our company, I mean, I'm not saying this to brag, but I've been putting in 13 to 14-hour days every day because that's what we have to do to keep our business moving forward. So 3 hours for a realtor, you and I, 8 or 10.
Yep. Oh, I feel it too, Mike. I feel it. Yeah. And it's so crazy because when we think about it realistically, we're asking them to put in 15 hours versus 40 hours.
Yes,
That 15 hours of really focused laser productivity makes such a big difference. And you're not working those 40 hours.
that's right. And
So, yes.
you're getting, see, here's a thought for all of your agents. A real estate office is a safe haven. You can say to your wife, your spouse, your children in the morning, "See you later," going to the office, going to work, show up at 9 o'clock. You have your friends, you have your office space, your computers, Starbucks around the corner. You can do nothing for 8 hours, go home and say, "Well, I worked all day." But see, when they're sitting watching you not do anything all day, it's a whole different program. So
Yep.
the discipline of doing something 3 hours a day is critical.
Yeah, I would like all the spouses of my agents to have like a private body cam where they can watch what they're actually doing to say, shouldn't you be working? Like have a little thing pop up on their phone, like, "Honey, I can see what you're doing." Like,
Or I can see what you're not doing.
exactly.
Right.
All right, Mike. Moving on to the next question, and thank you so much for your time. Do you anticipate prices will drop as the crisis continues and gets resolved?
No, in fact, I think, how long have you been in real estate now, personally?
2014.
Oh, so you've been in for a while. Good for you. So I started when I was 18. I'm 75.
Oh,
So
God bless.
that's 56 years. So together, we've been in real estate a long time. I will say to all of your agents, this is the first time in my career that we've ever seen a housing shortage, which we have today, as a benefit because it stabilizes the prices. I kiddingly will say to everybody that I was a very poor student in school. I went to 12 years of a Catholic school. My middle name is David. I got D's on my report card. I thought they were honoring me for something. I didn't know because I
Mike.
didn't know it because I wasn't very smart. But I got one A in one class, which was economics, because I understood supply and demand. It made sense to me. Well, there is very, very small supply of homes for sale, especially in Florida, where the market is so good. Okay, with the small supply and high demand, prices are stable. 2007 to 2012, huge inventory, no demand, prices fell through the floor. So I think for your agents today, this lack of inventory is the greatest advantage. Now, it's not as much fun if you're working with a buyer because you have to work a little harder. But for the sellers, it's almost magical because you can say to a seller, almost any reasonable price, we can get that price for you today. Now, if it's ridiculous, we can't. We don't know what's going to happen in 6 months, but today the prices are stable. So for buyers and sellers, this is a great time. No question about it.
Absolutely. And yeah, I totally agree. The low inventory helps us so much, and it gives us a reason to reach out to these sellers and let them know that right now is a good time to put their house on the market.
That's
So
right.
I love it.
By the
Next
way,
question.
I
Yeah.
like that. I like that sign, positive, positive, positive behind you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, everything's positive. You got it, negative, we'll try and get in there, but you just got to scratch it off on the distraction list.
I agree 100%.
Thank you, Mike. All right, next question. Since the public is very nervous, we're hearing a lot of, we may consider doing something when the crisis ends. What do we say and how do we handle these leads?
Well, first of all, for any of your agents that have ever followed anything I've taught, I've always said our energy and time should always be with what I call the type A buyer or seller. Highly motivated, has to do something, and they have to do it now. That's where you spend your time, and that has to continue. I mean, if a buyer or seller says, listen, I have an interest in doing something, you do whatever it takes to help them make that transaction now. But the question is all the people that are living with the new excuse, because it's a new excuse. See, in the past was, we don't want to do anything in January, February, because it's still a nice time of year in Florida. It's the season. Let's wait till after the season's over and say April or May. Well, then they can't do it because it's tax time. And then they can't do it because kids haven't got out of school. And they can't do it because it's summer vacation. People always have an excuse. The new excuse is, I want to wait until the pandemic is over. So I want everybody to take all of those names and communicate more than ever. Every 7 to 8 days, call them, text them, email. Watch neighborhood reports, market updates, market conditions. They're going to come back into the market. We know that. We just don't know when. We don't know when the floodgate is going to open. Okay, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's just not bright enough yet for those people to buy or sell. They're going to come back to the agents that they have the best relationship with. So the communication, but then on the communication, empathy, understanding, being kind to these buyers and seller prospects because they're nervous. So a lot of communication, and then when they come back, they'll come back to your agents versus the competition. Just, you got to service them beyond belief. 6 months ago, I wouldn't have given you that answer. Okay, but today that is the answer.
Very cool. Thank you. So just communicate once a week, stay on top of them, and it's really just following up with them, making sure, they know that we're here for them.
That's right. Yeah, 100%. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Oh, I'm loving this, Mike.
Thank
All
you.
right, so next question. Knowing that social distancing will be in place for a while, who should we be prospecting to? Yeah, and talking to. Who should we be prospecting to, Mike?
Well, first, number one, always your past clients. And it's interesting how often, excuse me, real estate people list or sell a home to a buyer, and then they never speak to that buyer or seller again. Stupid. That's the
Yeah.
best. Of course, Ron White, the great comedian, says you can't fix stupid. So some agents are not the brightest bulbs in the pack, and I'm not being critical. It's just a fact they don't follow up. Call every past client every 30 to 45 days. You've got to rebuild that relationship. They trust you already because you've done a deal with them. Second are your centers of influence, because that's your future referral business. Those people you want to, again, communicate market reports, market stats, updates, keep them engaged in the business. But here's what's fun. The money today is right here in my hand, the cell phone. 6 months ago, this was the enemy, okay? Because we don't want to call people, we don't want to bother them, I don't want to interrupt their life. Today, everybody's at home. They answer the phone. They want to talk to somebody. You know, they've been talking to their spouse and their kids for, 65 days. They want to talk to a human being. So the just listed and just sold phone calls are the most important calls. Because remember, excuse me, remember that on a Saturday morning, a husband and wife would get in their car to go to the mall, and they see a for sale sign from a real estate company. The conversation in the car is always the same. I'll bet our home is nicer. I'll bet we can get more for ours than they get for theirs. I wonder where they're moving to. I wonder if we should consider selling. Well, those conversations don't exist today. So the public doesn't know what's happening in the neighborhood like they used to because of our marketing, advertising, etc. So now if I make 20 calls every day around the listings and sales that I have and the company has, you're going to generate a lot of goodwill, a lot of good leads, and you're going to strengthen the brand of the company in the community. So the just listed, just sold. But then fourth is the for sale by owner, because they rely on people driving by and seeing their signs. People aren't doing that today. We have agents calling a buy owner now and saying, are you getting a lot of stop-in traffic? No, I'm not getting any. Maybe I can help. Okay. So past clients, centers of influence, just listed, just sold, and buy owners are probably the four best. And if they just make 20 contacts a day, 5 days a week, oh my gosh. Again, between working 3 hours and 20 contacts a day, the sky's the limit. Okay.
Yes, and they can do those contacts in those 3 hours a day, right? The 20 contacts into 3 hours, bam, two birds with one stone.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. No question.
Oh, I love it. All right, next question. We're becoming a virtual industry versus face-to-face. What does this mean, Mike?
It has to be a little scary for most real estate agents. And I say that not to be critical, but to be empathetic. Because right now, you and I are upfront, close, and personal. We can't hide anything. All of our flaws are on screen, okay? So I said to my wife, Sabrina, when I started doing these, I've done now, I think it's since March 17th, I think I've done 156 webinars for clients like yourself, okay? Thank you. And I do them all in 3 days a week, so it's about 4 or 5 a day. Well, what's interesting is I said to Sabrina after the first couple, this is not going to work. And she goes, why? I said, when I do a big superstar retreat, I have a full-time makeup artist behind the screen. And that lady is working full-time, keeping all of my flaws covered. So I can walk out on the stage and not look like I'm 75, which I am. When you're doing this, all the flaws show. I got about 9 chins, I got wrinkles, I got gray hair, for goodness sakes. My wife looked at me, who is German, and said, shut up, go back to work. So I did. That was it.
Smart wife you got there.
But the point is, the virtual side is the biggest time saver for the public. It's the best method of efficiency for the public and for the agent. So watch this example. Let's say that your agent, Nancy, on a Saturday morning has a $500,000 or $300,000 buyer coming in. She selected 5 or 6 homes to show them. They're pre-qualified, okay, they're pre-approved, so they're ready to buy. So your agent, Nancy, very smartly says, we have 2 choices. I'm anxious to spend the day to help you find the home of your dreams, and I'll commit to doing that. Or we can take 20, 30 minutes. I can show you all 6 homes virtually, and then we select the 2 that make the most sense. Which would you prefer? Well, they're going to pick the second option every time. And you're going to save that buyer. You're going to save the potential sellers. You're going to save yourself a lot of time. And you're going to be much more directed in the properties you show. We have agents every single day now taking listings virtually, where they never even go to the house. You know, between this conversation we're having and then DocuSign or whatever system you choose to use. So I'm going out on a limb here, but I think in 6 months to a year, 40 to 50% of all the deals will be done virtually versus live, because the time saving. So here's what I want your agents to do. If they role play and practice, they have to role play and practice virtually like we're doing. Even if they're sitting in 2 offices separate inside the office, have them turn on the Zoom camera and role play. They got to get used to, see, you're really good at this. I want to compliment you because you're looking right at the camera. And that's the key to working in a Zoom situation like we're doing today. But they better learn. Oh, you're doing terrific. But they have to learn to smile. They have to be enthusiastic. See, everything that I would recommend, you're a good example of. So I hope they're paying attention. Okay. But if they
I really appreciate that.
Oh no, it's important. And if they practice doing it this way, then they'll feel comfortable. But I did one of these a couple of weeks ago, and the broker said to me, would you like to see and meet some of the people watching today? And I said, okay. So he flashed onto the screen 20 of the agents that were all sitting watching this little webinar. The lady in the lower left-hand corner was lying in bed eating.
Oh gosh.
Boy, that was sure inspirational. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the 2 guys up in the far right corner, typical guys with the 3-day beard, the hats on backwards, one was smoking a cigarette. I'm going, this is not going to work for some of you, okay?
No.
So watch, practice being professional. That's the name of the game on the virtual, okay? You can get away with a lot of stuff live that you can't get away with when you're doing this type of presentation.
That's so true. And just practice, role play and practice.
Every day, virtually.
Absolutely. Very cool. Thank you. Many people feel, Mike, that the world and economy are coming to an end. Have you seen similar or worse in the past, Mike?
How old are you now?
34.
Okay, so I'm going to give you an example before you were born. 1972, I was an active real estate agent in Southern California. I had 3 FHA transactions closing in the month of December. 30-year fixed loans, interest rates on all 3 was 18.5% for the buyer, 18.5%. In 1973, we were closing deals at 21%. We really did, I know, I just watched my eyes get this big.
I'm having a heart attack.
Well, picture it. Can you imagine having a sales meeting tomorrow morning and saying to your great sales team, well, the interest rates just jumped from 3.5 to 18.5. They'd all be going looking for a job, okay? So we thought the world was ending. We made it through. 1987, on a given Monday, we had the biggest stock market crash in the history of the stock market in one day. Trillions of dollars lost. We thought the financial world was ending. Probably, I think, the worst day in the history of our country was 9/11. When those Twin Towers fell, the poor people of New York, the death, the destruction that took place. And I mean, let's face it, the world panicked over that. It was several months before we were able to start running our lives again. 2007 to 2012, the number of agents in the US dropped from 1.4 million to 790,000 in 18 months.
Wow.
Okay. The number of transactions in the US dropped from 6.5 million to 3.8 million. in less than 18 months. Here's the thought for all of your agents today. If the world collapsed today, we're still going to do 4 million real estate transactions in the US. That's a worst case scenario. That's 8 million commission checks that'll be distributed. My question for your agents is, how many do they want? Okay? Because the truth is, the world is not coming to an end. Yes, we're going through tough times, but we've always gone through tough times. It's called life. The greatest advantage of the American public is resiliency. We come back stronger than before. And with all the stuff going on today, we're going to be better than we were in the past.
Absolutely. And I've shared that with them as well. You know, every crisis you come out stronger, you come out with new skill set. During this COVID, I've worked with a few of my agents, really hammering down on their listing presentation, their buyer consultation. So when the opportunity presents itself, they're ready to rock it. They're ready to go.
100%. I agree. Good.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, Mike, it appears that you have a very strong mindset. How do you keep it strong, and how do you cut out the negativity and fear that so many experience?
Well, does the name Earl Nightingale mean anything?
Lead the field, baby.
I had the good fortune of working directly with Earl Nightingale Monday through Friday for 4 years between 1966 and 1970. And he was very kind to me. He almost treated me like a son. And I remember he gave me, one day I said to him, how do you stay positive? And he looked at me and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, you have choices to make every day. Make better choices. I said, well, tell me what that means. He said, the power of choice is the greatest power that human beings have. He said, when you wake up in the morning, you have a choice. Go back to sleep or get up. When you get up, you have a choice. Do something productive, do something non-productive. When something goes awry or haywire, you have a choice, react negative or positive. And then he looked at me and said, make the right choice. So I've spent my life working on making positive choices for everything that I do. To do that, I've read a lot. I've read 200 books a year for 50 years, which I've done. And I've done that all my life, and I hope to continue. But I also am a great believer that I keep what I call the negativity helmet. It's invisible around my head. I just don't let negativity in. If somebody's negative, I smile, I nod my head, and I never listen to one word they say. Okay, I just won't do it. But you know, the power of affirmations, the power of goal setting, all of those things. You know, this crazy little iPad we have today. What a wonderful tool. I mean, if all of your agents 3 times a day took 10 or 15 minutes and listened to an inspirational message, you know, the Darren Hardys and Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy's and Earl Nightingales and Zig Ziglar's, I still do it every day because I get inspired. So it's just a choice that we have to make. And I just hope, well, I'm going to say something now that some people don't like. I haven't watched the news on TV in 45 years.
45 years?
I haven't watched the news once. I have no interest, okay? I don't read the newspapers. I haven't read the newspapers in 45 years. I can't even read the sports section because there's no sports. So the only thing I like to read is the sports section. And we finally had a PGA golf tournament this last weekend, which was fun if you're a sports fan. But I don't participate in the negativity, so therefore I don't have to live it. And that's a choice. And I hope that all of your agents understand I'm not trying to tell them how to live. I'm just trying to help them make better choices. Okay.
Yes, enhance their life.
Enhance their life. That's a great way to say it. No question about it.
Absolutely. Oh, super cool. So we've finished wrapping up with those questions. I do see a few questions from the agents. Do you mind if we answer those?
Good.
All right. Thank you, Mike. So our first question from Brian, what do home foreclosures will decrease?
Say the first part again.
Brian, could you go ahead and retype that? That's a little confusing. I'm going to move on to Armando. Sorry about that, Mike. We're going to wait for him to, rewrite that in. What about people that are moving to big cities? Any advice during the coronavirus, if they're moving towards the big cities?
Well, I think they're all leaving the big cities of New York to come to Florida because it's a better place to live. So I think that, you know, the big cities, of course, are Miami and, of course, Naples. I lived in Naples for 8 years. It's a tiny city compared to Miami. Fort Lauderdale, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, Orlando are big cities. But those are not cities, except for Miami, that go this way. They go this way, meaning they're more residential oriented. So I'm not concerned about the fact that the Florida market is going to be affected in a negative manner. I think it's very positive that you have such a huge movement from the Northeast to Florida. Taxes, weather, people, beaches. I mean, it's to me, it's the second greatest place in the world to live, because we live in Nevada, and then we have a home in Newport Beach, California. So we're very much West Coast oriented. We did live in Naples for 8 years, which we loved, okay, because it's an amazing little city. But I would tell Armando not to be concerned, because Miami Beach is a high rise. Most of Florida is somewhat limited for height. And the height compresses people, and that means the virus would be spread more easily in a high rise than it would be in a community. So I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay, and then on the opposite, with them moving from the big city, I mean, I personally have noticed more New Yorkers, Chicago, people from the
Yeah.
West Coast coming over this way. Do you believe that it will continue happening that way?
Well, here's the good news about the Sunshine States, which really run from California right across the South all the way through Florida. There's still plenty of space to build a lot of beautiful homes. Okay, I've traveled all over the world doing seminars for 45 years, and the Sunshine States are still the most popular. So I would say that the influx of people, because of the severe winters in Chicago, New York, Detroit, etc., the incredible tax advantages, and then the beautiful place to be, which is what Florida is. I would say prepare for more people coming to the state of Florida.
Absolutely. Prepare for that opportunity, making those phone calls 3 times a week or 3 days a week, 3 hours per day for the week. Let me clarify that. We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. All right, team.
That first question.
Brian, and Armando says thank you. He unfortunately did not reply back yet. Something about will home foreclosures decrease? I think that's what he means.
It doesn't matter whether the market's good or bad. There's always a certain number of foreclosures taking place. And I think with the different rules that are in effect today, I don't think we're going to see in 6 or 12 months a big foreclosure market taking place. I don't think it's even a serious consideration for any of us. So I'm not a big working the foreclosure market fan, because it's a pretty negative market in most cases because of the circumstances people are going through. However, in 2007 to 2012, it was the market. And if you weren't listing foreclosures, you probably weren't listing. So I would tell Brian not to be concerned. Okay.
Okay, perfect. And I'd like to piggyback that real quick, Mike. So it's not, you don't foresee it happening like it did back then, 2007, 2008, where they should be going to short sale and foreclosure classes and understanding that material. That's kind of like a waste of time, would you say?
Well, it's not, it's all knowledge is good. All knowledge is important, but it's not going to be the focus of the market. There's always going to be a certain percentage, as I stated, good or bad, they're going to go into foreclosure. It's just called life. But that's not going to be the theme of the market for the next 3 or 4 years. Okay, the housing shortage is the biggest advantage we have today. That's what we got to keep that thought in mind. Okay?
Absolutely, and that's why we need more listings on the market.
Always, yeah.
Definitely. Were you going to say something else, Mike?
I was going to say, can I give them my email address?
Oh, please.
Because sometimes after a call is done, they have a question, and if they email it to me, I'll try to respond within a couple hours. It's very complicated, so get their pens out. Mike.Ferry. Mike.Ferry at MikeFerry.com. Mike.Ferry. So somebody said to me last week, that's an egotistical email address, because all you're using is your name. I said, I'm old, I can remember it. So that was the answer.
Oh, that's so funny.
So you'll get a kick out of this. My gal Lori, who you've talked to or communicated with, at about the 35-minute mark sends me a text, and it says, hang up, you have to do this again. So I probably should say, first of all, thank you for inviting me. Thanks for getting the people together. Hopefully they will respond in the same positive manner that you have, and If they have questions, send them to me. So thanks for your energy, enthusiasm, and your smiles.
Oh, thank you, Mike. I really appreciate your time, your knowledge, your wisdom, and just sharing your thoughts about what's going on and how to really conquer what's going on and still be productive and do what we need to do and be, agents going after their business, right? Hunting. It's all I like the term hunting. You got to go hunt for it, right? You can't be scared in the corner. You learn your skills and you go after it and you go hunt.
Every day.
Every day. All right, Mike, I know you need to
See you
go.
soon.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, team. I hope you're still on. I really hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for your time. If you have questions, please email him, mike.ferry@mikeferry.com.